As we all know, the first 2 weeks of the NHL season are the only games that matter, and nothing else decides the outcome when you get to the end of it, right? Totally normal. We'll also talk about the Avs goaltending situation again, because we keep having to do that, and we'll get into some of the forward lines and what they might look like with some changes to the lineup probably coming soon. Let's start today's show.
And welcome inside the Toyota Lounge, high above the DNVR bar on Colfax. The Toyota Lounge brought to you by your Front Range Toyota dealers. Hi, everybody. Glad to have you along. It is the DNVR Avs podcast presented by Bet365. And Bet365, no matter the situation, it's never ordinary. Nick Gismondi, Gizmo with you. Rudo, Biggie calling in. Night after a good win by the Colorado Avalanche. We'll touch on that in a little bit. But I had no idea that the entirety of the NHL,
it's crazy, right?
6 or 7 month season and 82 games was just it's all the first 2 weeks.
All just for show. The rest of it, yeah.
Really?
Season's over. Forget it.
Wow. Well, that's incredible. E, what did you think of the season then for Colorado though? Since we're 2 weeks in.
Did you say the season ending?
It's over.
Yeah.
Remember, know that the first 2 weeks of the season predicates the entire season. I mean, the 7 games is really all you need to determine the Stanley Cup champion, correct?
Well, Calgary Flames, I mean, that's great to see them win another cup.
It's big.
It's really
since
big. 1989. I mean, if you're asking me, it's pretty awesome. I really didn't see that coming.
Neither did I.
No.
Neither did I. And I thought it got real intense by game 5, but by game 7, it was over.
Ran away with it.
Lot to talk about on the show today. And we are joking around, of course. There is so much hockey left to be played and things to be determined. And you're really just kind of seeing where things are at, and it's just such a small sample size. And I know we say we don't like taking a look at graphics this early on in the standings this early on in the season, but we will run around the league a little bit and just kind of who got off hot, who got off cold, and where we think the middle ground to that truthfully is. First of all, just I want to do this after game days. Just give me your quick, you've had less than 24 hours to redux it, but what a great victory by the Colorado Avalanche. And I was super impressed by Eustace and the way he played yesterday. Let's start with you, Rudo.
Yeah, I mean, look, if the Avs had lost that game, we might be talking about Seattle as one of the hot start teams in the league. Instead, Seattle ends up a middle-of-the-pack team, not all that far away from the Avs. So it's a good win for the Avs to prove that they can beat real hockey teams in the NHL. They beat the Sharks, cool. They beat Anaheim, cool. Those are going to be bottom feeder teams. I don't know that Seattle's a playoff team, but they're a real hockey team that you actually have to play well against to beat.
Yeah, and listen, Seattle plays a tough style. They are all gas, no breaks, shock and awe right from the beginning, and they have to do that because they've got a shaky goalie and not much offense. So try to jump on teams from the beginning, and it worked last night to a certain degree through about 15 minutes because it was catch-up for the Avs for most of that first period until they sort of kind of settled it down and played their game.
Yeah, and like you said, it was catch up on the game style of things, not on the scoreboard, which is the main key. And Rudo just talked about you getting goaltending. When you get goaltending, then it allows you to get the game settled and underneath your feet and really find your groove. And you will in a 60-minute hockey game if you're the Colorado Avalanche. They're going to find their way. And this is exactly what it did yesterday. Seattle was a different way. They're built differently than the Avalanche. Obviously, they're built more on like a 4-line rotation. And, some steady defensemen. Obviously, Dunn being out for a long period of time is going to hurt them, but they had the addition of Montour, and obviously this past summer in free agency. I'm talking about on the back end. Obviously, they added Stevenson up front and all that kind of stuff, but they're built differently. And I think the Avalanche got goaltending and hence the victory because they were able to just all of a sudden not chase the game on the scoreboard and it just kind of settled into their game.
Yeah, look, I think the more you look at games like that, the more you start to see why the Colorado Avalanche should be a good team this year. And they're not going to play well every night. They're not going to get away with bad periods every night. But as it stands, I think they've earned probably a few bounces for the games that they've lost in this season, where really they played pretty well, but there was one major glaring issue one way or another, whether that was defense, goaltending, or offense. So they're putting it together, and they still have work to do to get them back up to where they should be, but I feel pretty confident in this team right now.
I do too. I was encouraged by yesterday. I like the depth scoring. I was very impressed by Annunen. I thought he was great. I love the fact that they're getting, like I said, that depth from guys like Colton and Kivy. It's total buy-in on the defensive side, which I think is super cool. Guys are blocking shots like it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. And that's what you want. It shows me that everybody's bought in and that they believe in the room and that they believe in the cause and the mission, and they're going to do everything they can until they really get everything back and running and stable. We talked about these first games kind of sort of just trying to be at right around 500, and you start 0-4, it doesn't look like that. And now all of a sudden, and we'll talk about the game against Utah tomorrow at the very end of the show, but kind of looking like you might be at 400 heading back to Denver against two teams that you could probably maybe get above 500 on, because you're coming back to take and back-to-back, yes, but Ottawa and Chicago, if this goes to plan in the way I think it should go, you're 6-4 by the 29th of October.
Yeah, if you can run the table a little bit there, win 6 straight, you forget about the first 4 games of the season pretty quick.
We'll be done talking about it.
Yeah.
only using it as, we told you it was going to be all right. Let's talk about, and I think maybe what we do is we go through divisions here, if you want, just in terms of where teams are hot, where teams are cold. Do you want to start on the West?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all right. Well, let's talk about the Central Division, and we'll kind of take you through where the standings are. Obviously, why don't we start with the hot, and we'll get everybody's take on it. But Winnipeg, undefeated. Yep. Minnesota, 4-0-2. Yep. Dallas 5-2, and then Utah, who we'll see tomorrow, 4-2-1. We'll start there.
I want to start with Minnesota just because I want to show you guys something. And look, it's 6 games one way or the other. Don't read too much into anything. But you're talking about a team, or did I say Minnesota? I meant Winnipeg. I want to start with Winnipeg.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah. Anyway, here's who Winnipeg has played so far this season. The Oilers, who have really struggled to start this year. The Blackhawks, who are bad. The Wild, all right, that seems like a legitimate win at the start of this season. The Sharks, bad. The Penguins, I think a team people are expecting to be bad this year. They've been just okay to start the year. And the Blues, bad. So 5 of their 6 wins you're looking at and going, yeah, well, they're supposed to win those games.
Correct. Okay.
6-0 feels great for them, but have they really had a test yet? I mean, honestly, how many teams they played are even as good as the Kraken team that the Avs beat the other night? I don't think there's that many.
I would agree. I would say that this is why you guys argue that standings at the beginning of the season are not indicative of what is actually going on.
Bingo.
If you're not a hockey aficionado and you're not doing what Rudo did and look down Winnipeg's schedule, you're like, the Jets are 6-0?
Yeah.
Well, the cup.
Little misleading.
Cup is coming back to the peg. So yeah, a little bit misleading. I think Winnipeg, obviously, winning games is winning games, and points are points. So they're doing the right things and winning the games that they have to win. When they start to get tested, what happens? Good question.
Yeah, and that's why I say it all the time. I don't look at standings. I kind of know where I'm at as a team. I don't look at them because I feel stupid. to look at those, and for exact reasons you guys just talked about. I don't like it because sometimes you can feel down about your team as a fan or as a player, or you can feel so good and it's really misleading, like we just talked about. So for me, it's like, it all equals out. It all evens out by the end of the year. You don't know what the type of schedule those guys have had. You have to look at, are they on back-to-backs? Who are they facing? Are they facing a team that's played the night before? Are they facing a team that's missing their top defenseman or whatever it is? That's why I always say I don't care about the head-to-head matchups during this year when you talk about playoffs, because it really doesn't matter. It was not on an even playing field. Those games were not played on an even playing field because one team might have been playing 3 games in 7 nights where the other team were playing 3 and 4, and then you're missing a few guys. So again, standings are standings. I'm not too worried about it. The Avalanche, it was more that all of a sudden you lose 4 games in a row. I don't care what type what time of the season you're losing those games, it's cause for concern. You know what I mean? Because it can escalate, as we saw with Edmonton last year, really quickly. Even though they were a good team, they made it all the way to the finals. But we saw that once it goes, then there's changes that need to be made. It's just life, So I think the Avalanche were playing a little bit with fire there. It just happened that it was at the start of the season. So it is what it is. And then on the flip side of things, yeah, I mean Calgary, we're just talking about, the Central there, but Winnipeg and Minnesota. I mean, are they really going to go 82-0 or whatever it is, 80-0-2, or, probably not. But if you ask the fan base over there, they're probably going to tell you, yeah, we believe, and we're going to be awesome. Well, it's perfect. Then I say to them, come talk to me like February 15th and see where it's at.
Well, you know what they say, guys. You can't win all 82 unless you win the first 6.
That's true. You do have to win the first 6. Eric, I wanted to ask you, because obviously you spent a lot of time in NHL locker rooms. We talk a lot about how, hey, look, your leadership has to step up when you're losing games and get you back on track. What does it look like for a team that starts 6-0? Is there a level of trying to keep the team even keel, not get too high, or do you just kind of let it ride?
100%, you're bang on, because I'll tell you one thing. Usually when you're 6-0, you've gotten away with stuff. You know what I mean? If you really dissect the thing, and it starts with coaches, a lot of times they'll bring you back in a little bit in the locker room and say, hey, listen, let's have a practice today on this, because, they look at analytics, they look at anything and go, hey, we've been very lucky. You know what I mean? Our goalies kept us in. We've been outchanced. Most periods. We've given up a lot of shots from the slot. Let's work on that. So that means we're getting away with it. You say it all the time, and I love the way you say it sometimes. It's like, oh, don't worry, it's not sustainable. Well, it's going to come from coaches, but coaches are like parents. So you sit there and you're like, whatever. When you hear from your parents, it's like, yeah, whatever. You're going to do whatever you want anyway, right? Because you're a rebel teenager and you're like, yeah, whatever. You're not really listening. And then that's why you need a good leadership core. You know what I mean? If your leadership are guys that have been there, that truly know what it's like. And some guys, believe it or not, trust me, there's a lot of superstars in this league and they don't know how to win. And I don't care what people say. There is a lot of those guys. That doesn't make them bad guys. They just don't know how to win. They think they know how to win, but they've never been taught the right way. And a lot of guys, like all of a sudden they get traded or they go somewhere else and they're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that's how it worked. So it's very important that your core guys, we all know the Avalanche have championship pedigree. It does matter. And then when it comes from within, and it comes from within the locker room, it comes from within your peers, it's a lot stronger. No offense to coaches or management or whatever it is. When it comes from within, it's got a stronger outcome and a way louder message.
Just to connect with your unsustainable point, the Minnesota Wild at 4-0-2, their current goaltending save percentage at 5-on-5 is a .955. That will not last. You cannot sustain those type of numbers in goal. So, yeah, expect some coming down to earth over the next couple of weeks.
And I think that's the case, right? Like, you're going to see it level off, and we're going to have this conversation in a couple of the other divisions also. But I think similarly what you mean is that, again, you got to look at the schedule. You got to look at all the other factors, because at the beginning of the season, there are some intangibles that you just don't know what exactly is going on. On the bottom of the Central Division, I think you had it called. I honestly thought Nashville was going to get off to a hot start. I did caveat it with who knows what happens inside that locker room if those bodies and everybody all jives together. Yeah. At this moment, it would appear that maybe that's not the case.
Yeah, usually the analytics guy, I don't know what it was about that Nashville team. Something just did not feel right to me. And you know what? We're one game difference from maybe saying the same thing about the Avs, where things have spiraled a little bit. They did get their first win the other night, but you're looking at a team that should, in theory, have a ton of firepower, and they're not outscoring their problems for the most part this year. Is some of that people adjusting to the systems? Sure. Is some of that a problem of how do these guys slot in, especially someone like a Stamkos who has played for one team his entire career? How does that adjustment to an entirely new system for him look? I like to bring up the fact that a lot of the guys they went out and got aren't getting any younger. A lot of their core, guys like Ryan O'Reilly, aren't getting any younger. I do wonder in a modern NHL that plays so fast if they can keep up at times. Are they this bad? No, obviously not. But, man, they might not be as good as people thought.
They needed that win yesterday. It was going to get ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at it, they haven't gotten the goaltending. Let's call a spade a spade. It's the same thing. It hasn't been, sure. It hasn't been good, and it's not going to be sustainable either. He's not going to be that bad all year long. They're about a -9 right now on goal differential. So we all know you want to win, you got to keep the puck out of your net. It doesn't matter if it's the Avalanche or the Predators. Now, do I think the Predators are going to be one of those teams that are still at the top? Yeah, they will be in my book. Have they had a bad start? Yes. And sometimes when you tinker a little bit, and when I say you tinker, I'm not blaming them. They obviously knew, they talked about it. They went and made some changes in their personnel with Stamkos and Marchessault and guys like that, right? On defense, with Dad McDonough, right? Brady Shea, right? Somewhere you are tinkering with the chemistry of your lines, the chemistry of your the way things are laid out in Nashville. So now you're having a totally different outlook, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time. It just happened that they started sideways, and then all of a sudden, you just said it. They lose that one last night, then it starts to really get into a black cloud above your head and above the team. But that win last night against a good Boston Bruins opponent, it was a big win for them at home, and I bet you they go on a little bit of a run here and a little bit of a streak, kind of like the Avalanche just kind of did this past week.
Certainly betting on that at the start of the season, and I probably would have taken that bet because we love the gang over at Bet365, because whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. They are powering up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more with over 10,000 boosts every single month, which is super cool. They boost specific markets and your winnings and even parlays. Make sure you're looking out for those DNVR boosts and special bets that we constantly have out there. They've got a ton of cool stuff no matter what sports you like, especially right now with the NHL season going. Their early payout offer is awesome. If your team goes up by 3 goals, you're automatically a winner, and you get instant payouts on straight bets and parlay selections. A bunch of different cool things that you can do if you don't have Bet365 already and you want to sign up. New customers can choose between 2 offers when they open an account at Bet365. Use the code DNVR365 to sign up. Deposit $10 and choose either the bet and get offer, where you place a bet of $5 or more and you get $200 in bonus bets, or that first bet safety net by placing a bet of up to $1,000. And if your qualifying bet loses, you receive a match refund in bets. I've been having some fun with it, but I am still ice cold right now.
Should have took my bets, buddy. 2 for 3 last night. Got the Middlestat assist, got the Avs score first. Yeah. Should have got the Avs to cover. We were 3 seconds away from the trifecta, but
got it. Well, next time I'm taking your bets. I ended up throwing that Casey Middlestat anytime goal scorer in the middle.
That was you needed to take the assist.
I thought he was going to get it. He retakes his twig. I'm like, he's in. You must be 21 plus and physically located in the state of Colorado. Make sure that you're gambling responsible. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem or wants help, call or text 1-888-GAMBLER.
And once you win a bunch of money, that means rounds of Coors Light are on you. So go get yourself some Coors Light, the beer literally made to chill, at CoorsLight.com/DNVR. You can get it delivered right to your front door thanks to Instacart. Mountains turn blue on the bottle or the can. You know it's ice cold and ready to drink. You can also come have some down here at the DNVR bar. We got Coors Light on tap. So jump on it with Coors Light and go get the beer that makes you relax. When you look at the standings and you want to panic, don't do that. Crack a beer, sit back. It's early. You'll be fine.
You'll be all right.
Don't worry too much about it. Get yourself a Coors Light. And, of course, please drink responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
All right, we'll stay on the Central for just another couple of minutes because I want to touch on the Utah Hockey Club, who the Avalanche will face tomorrow. They're currently sitting about in the middle of the pack in that fourth spot, 4-2-1. Just what are our thoughts on the Arizona Coyotes, now in blue and white and located further north?
Yeah, I think when you look at Utah right now, they're a very young team. A lot of their success is coming from their younger players. And from experience, watching this Avs team grow up, when you're in that stage, you ride the waves. When you're hot, you feel unkillable. And when you're cold, you feel like you can't win a game to save your life. Utah started the season wicked hot. They've cooled off a little bit, lost the last couple. It feels like a team right now that this Avs game is big for them. If they win that one, they keep riding high. They keep riding this wave. If they lose that one, it might just start to fall off a little bit for them.
I'm going to say it. I'm not a believer. I said it last summer. I'll say it again. There's teams in this league that I believe in, and I'm not the man in charge. I don't like it. I don't like the way they're built. We just talked about it 5 minutes ago about leadership and knowing how to win. So I'm going to ask you a question on that team. Who's the one that shows you how to win? Who's the guy that shows you and leads you the way? I didn't say that you're not a good player. Clayton Keller's a great player. I'm not sure he's never made the playoffs. He's not. So how does he show you how to win? I looked up and down their lineup. I don't see anyone. They went and got Mikhail Sergachev. It's not fair for me to talk about him. I really don't know him. Is he one of those outgoing guys that will teach those guys how to win? I don't know. Maybe that's why they went and got him. But if I look at their lineup, top to bottom, I don't see anyone. And again, the front office, I think, has had a free pass, so to speak, the last 5, 6, 7 years, because it's like, oh, we're rebuilding, we're stockpiling, we're draft picks. But at some point, you got to do something, and you got to go win games in the National Hockey League. It's not always a free pass. So that's the way I look at it, from their coaching staff, their management, to their players. Yeah, sure, it all looks great. You know what I mean? And it was awesome to see 10 days ago, opening night. It seemed very exciting. The Utah Hockey Club, and it's a new franchise, and it was fun, and owner seems to be awesome, and but then there's a big difference between that and saying that those guys are for real. I don't believe that they are. I do believe that it was a great start. Now they're coming back down to reality a little bit, but again, small sample. We're not going to change, what we just talked about earlier. So I feel that it's an okay team. And I really don't see the hype when people are talking about, like, again, until you show me how to win, then awesome. Then then I can tell you, that, hey, I'm a believer in your team. Right now, I'm not.
It's interesting, and this applies to the entire Central Division. I think it's kind of the Avs' fault that we've seen this gigantic arms race for defenses in the Central Division because of how good the Avs are. You talking about it with Sergachev going to Utah this offseason, Shea in Nashville, and you look through some of these other teams that are, anywhere from mid-range to top of the list. Even someone like Dallas trying to go out and get at someone like Matt Dumba. I may not like that move, but every single team in the Central said we need to beef up our defense this year.
Yeah, and I think that what you're seeing in the Central Division is a little bit of the feeling out process, right? I think everybody's trying to get their footing. I mean, look at it this way. I mean, I'm going with the high optimism here, but we realistically think in the next 3 games, those are wins for the Avalanche, right? Realistically,
2 of the 3 for sure.
Okay, all right. So let's just call
Back-to-backs are weird.
Sure, let's call it that. I mean, even if you win 2 of the 3, you've now put yourself from dead last in the division to
mid-pack,
possibly in second, maybe even in tied for first, depending on what happens.
I think it'd take a lot to get to there, but
agreed. But it's just one of those things where I think it's super early and teams are finding their footing, and that's what we're seeing.
For sure. And
again, sorry, I just wanted to add about Utah. Welcome to the Colorado Avalanche world. I never want to see anyone get hurt in this league. It stinks. I've been there. It stunks. I mean, it stunk. It's not fun. And as a fan, you want to see the best players out there. But I'll tell you one thing, Sean Durzi and John Marino being out long term, and they kind of had changed, like you just said, the outlook of their defense this past summer, that's going to hurt them. And that's why I say welcome to the Avalanche world, because boy, oh boy, it just seems the last few years that's all they've been dealing with. But then again, they have the McKinnons, Rantanens, Makars to overcome those things. And I don't know if the Utah Hockey Club has that,
Just to kind of talk about the other side of this a little bit, particularly in the Central Division. Yeah, we may not be believers in some of these things long term, but what a hot start does for you is it earns you the right to lose a few games.
Right. Gives you some breathing room.
Yeah. Unlike the Avs, who right now are like, they kind of need to win these next 3 games. They don't really have room, certainly not to lose more than one of them. Whereas you look at a team like Winnipeg, and if they have a bad night, drop a game, they hardly care at all. So they've earned some stuff. I'm not trying to take away from these teams and say, they're actually bad. I'm also just saying they're probably not going to rattle off a whole lot more 6-0 stretches this year.
Right. And keep in mind, 4 of those games are at home. 2 are on the road.
Yep.
Just looking at their goals for, I mean, they're scoring.
They're not exactly packing in a crazy schedule just yet as far as workload is concerned.
Correct. 27 goals for.
Yep.
10 against. Yeah. I mean, listen, the Central's a weird one. But I'm looking, really looking up and down the standings, because I am with you guys. I don't really look at it a ton. I really don't early in the season, but now I'm like getting ready to move on to the Pacific here, and it's a little bit more balanced, but Calgary is hot and wild.
Calgary is the hot starter, which I guess there are other. Calgary is the surprise hot starter.
Sure.
I should put it to you that way. Was not expecting them to be up at the top of their division to start the season. I will say this. I went into this season thinking that the Central Division might be the worst division. I think it might actually be the Pacific.
I agree. You guys good to move on to the Pacific?
I'm good.
Yeah. Let's move on there, and let's start with the top. Calgary 5-0, Vegas 4-2-1. Vancouver 3-1, and we'll stop at the top 4, and then we'll look at the bottom 4. LA 3-2-2, but got absolutely demolished by Vegas last night.
Yeah, that game was rough. Calgary's your team. What do you got for them?
Well, I mean, if you're reading Twitter every morning, there's a sense of belief, right? Which is awesome, because you never want to go. It's just like when people talk about tanking, and guys don't go in there trying to tank. Management, I'm not saying they're trying to tank, but sometimes they'll put the position and not in a position to succeed, right? Or players not in a position to succeed. But players never go out there trying to lose. Again, I think the Calgary Flames going in there, myself included, and again, I'm not changing my mind after a 5-0-1 start, where I do believe it will get tight, it will get tough at times, but right now you see the belief. You see guys talking about the no-quit mentality and us versus everybody else because nobody gives us respect. And it's awesome. And it's probably true. They're not getting a lot of respect. But then you got Dustin Wolf, last night that, plays great in the shootout, gets all excited when he gets a big win. You got Justin Kirkland, a journeyman minor leaguer that's been there for a long time. And all of a sudden, he gets to be put out there on the shootout, because he's Mr. Automatic, and they call him Costco, right? Kirkland being obviously Costco. If you don't care, we can talk after the show if you're not too sure why there's a relation there. But all of a sudden, he's the guy that gets the nod on the shoulder to go, and that's why I'm saying it's an all team effort right now. It's They've let go a lot of veterans these past 12 to 16 months, and now it's all about the younger guys and the Zaris of the world, but they still have the Kadris and guys like that. So there's a belief in there. How long can it last? I don't think it's certainly going to last at a 5-1-1 pace, but it's certainly a nice story early in the year. Absolutely. You know what I mean? But do I think it's going to keep going? Probably not.
And hockey in general, do they give a Stanley Cup like every 2 weeks, correct?
Yeah. Like that in-season NBA trophy they have
right.
now?
It's like a participation thing, right?
Totally. Definitely a thing that the NHL would ever do.
Sick. Congratulations to the Calgary Flames.
I appreciate the in-depth knowledge there, but I look at a little bit of a simpler song here for Calgary. You know what they're finally getting? Quality play out of Jonathan Huberdeau.
Yeah.
Last 2 years, he's been a guy who's barely put up 50 points. This year, he's got 6 points in 6 games, including 3 goals. He only scored 12 goals all of last season.
Wow.
That trade has been rough for Calgary the last couple of years on that Matt Tkachuk going the other way. It's looking like at the start of this year that they finally might be getting a little bit comfortable with Huberdeau and finding a role for him that makes sense. Yeah, he's not going to carry you to never losing again, but Calgary finding an effective offense, I think it helps cover up some of the question marks that they're going to have in goaltending this year. Are they really a playoff team? I mean, this start helps. You're a lot more likely to make the playoffs with this start than you are in the other direction. So if they can find consistent offenses, not all of this is going to keep up. But if you can keep up your best players or the guys who are supposed to be your best players like Huberdeau playing effectively for you, it's going to be a better season than at least I was expecting for Calgary.
And I want Huberdeau to do well. He seems like a great dude. Honestly, I don't know. But as a fellow Frenchman, I really didn't like the way things went for him the last 2 years. It's painful. It's been painful. I think you can see it. He wears it on his emotion, on his face. He's not hiding it, and that's tough. You don't wish that on any athlete. And I was reading stuff about this summer that he really wanted to make a difference, and really talk to Husky, the coach, and talk to everybody, and spend some time with them, try to figure out, listen, how can I help? I don't think he was pointing any fingers. With that said, Matthew Tkachuk goes out there. He's the story of the league, basically one of the stories of the league the last 2 years, and then they go and win the Stanley Cup. It's a dagger in your. It does hurt if you're Huberdeau. Especially after all those years in Florida, and all of a sudden everybody's doing the parade and the Stanley Cups everywhere. That's all you see. It's a tough way. It's a tough way to live, but. No, I agree with you. I think he's been decent, very good the first 6 games. And then that's why they want to touch it, because I'm like, can he go back to 3 years ago and find that consistency? I don't know. And that's why I hate it, after 6 games, because it's such small samples and I kind of have a hard time. That's why I was saying I wish, and trust me, I don't know him at all, but I just wish he does well, because he seems like a good dude and he seems a guy that cares. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's duped me, but I do wish him the best of luck, and I hope that he can keep that pace up, but it's only been 6 games.
Keep that pace up against everybody else, not the Avs.
Well, he's got a bright future, I think, and I think he's having a great season. And anytime you have a bright future like that, you got to have shades on, baby. And what better than to put Shady Rays on and use that code DNVR? Maybe throw Hubie a message, because you got to get ready for the season with quality shades that are built to last. And our friends at Shady Rays have got you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. An independent sunglass company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor activities. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays has given out their best deal of the season. If you head to shadyrays.com and you code DNVR, you get 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try them for yourself. The shades that are rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people, and they have hundreds of options to choose from. So you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. And they probably have a style in your favorite team's colors as well. So go pick up some Colorado Avalanche Shady Rays and make sure you are looking good, because snow is coming. There's snow glare out there. 300+ days of sunshine a year here in Colorado, so they tell me. And you know what? get yourself some Shady Rays so you're always ready to go.
Look, if you're a person who gets migraines like I do, absolute must sunglasses in the winter for the snow glare.
Gotta have them.
Absolutely need them, especially when you're on the road, driving to wherever you might be going. Maybe you're going up into the mountains. Maybe you're going into downtown. Either way, Toyota has you covered. They've got a vehicle for you, whatever you might need. You hauling stuff? They got trucks like the Tundra and the Tacoma. You dragging your dogs around to the dog park? They got SUVs like the RAV4 and the 4Runner. You want to just take a quick little trip to the grocery store? You don't need a lot of room? They got the Corolla. They got the Prius. Whatever it might be. They even have their high-end GR series. If you're looking to... I would never condone anyone to do anything illegal, but sometimes you pull up to that red light and you rev the engine a little bit and you got to let it burn, okay? You got to do it. Toyota has that vehicle too. 17 different all-wheel drive vehicles, 16 different hybrids if you want to be eco-conscious. And the coolest part is they're the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche. So get to your local Front Range Toyota dealerships today, which include, but are not limited to, AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota and Boulder, Groove Toyota and Littleton, Mountain States Toyota and Denver, Stevenson Toyota East and Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Again, the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche and DNVR.
You remind me of that Micro Machine guy. Do you remember that back in the day? The guy that was talking a million miles an hour. I loved that dude. I also loved Micro Machines.
Micro Machines are great.
Yeah.
That was my stuff.
Thank you all for hanging out in the Toyota chat as well, too. Side note, has Big E lost 6 pounds yet? He doesn't have to lose them at the exact same time.
Just at the end of the
team.
season.
Just by the end of the season, be down as many points as they've got. And you do look a little thinner in the neck there, bud. I know you're working on it. Also, Wayne says Bednar has the kids playing Avs hockey. I agree with that yesterday. I saw that. And now Legacy just chiming in. There's just no way the Jets are the real deal. They're the worst. They're a worse team than last season. Yeah, we kind of talked through that schedule, and we won't go back to the Central right now. Yeah. But, yeah, they've had a favorable schedule to start the season. I don't think you'll see that much longer. Talked about Calgary. Obviously, good thoughts for Huberdeau as he continues to play well to start the season. But just let's take me through where we think things are at with Vegas, who looked very good last night, Vancouver and LA, who did not look very good last night. Mind you, they're still down Drew Doughty.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think the rest of the Pacific Division is kind of the boring playing out the way everyone more or less expected it to.
Sure, we don't have to spend much time on it.
Yeah, look, the only team there that's, Edmonton started slow again. They've proven they can be fine with that. Vegas, maybe a bit of a better start with the goal scoring than I expected. You look at that forward core, you don't really think they're going to start like that, but, having a healthy Mark Stone and some of those other pieces.
Mark Stone's healthy?
I know. Hard to believe. At least for the next 2 months, he'll be healthy, and then something will crop up.
Back looked okay last night.
No kidding. But, yeah, the Central the Pacific, besides Calgary, to me, is pretty chalk. I don't see a whole lot of interesting storylines developing quite yet from the Pacific.
Okay, fair. E, any quick thoughts on the rest of the Pacific before we jump to the East?
Again, I'll say something that I've been saying all along. You're not getting goaltending LA. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I don't care what people say when they say goaltending's not important. Goaltending is the most important position. If you're not getting it, you know what I mean? It can sink you. It will sink coaches. It will sink PKs. It will sink anything. And I tell you one thing. Some of those teams have not been getting it, and that's why they're at the bottom there of that division.
Jumping to the East, starting in the Atlantic, Florida continues to be good. Tampa Bay sniffing around. Ottawa surprisingly out to an okay start. And the Toronto Maple Leafs are above 500.
Yeah, the Atlantic rather is maybe the most interesting division to me personally, because I think outside of Florida, it was a little bit unclear how things were going to shake out in that division. Boston still kind of getting their feet wet and getting Swayman fully back into the swing of things for them. So they've only started out okay. Ottawa is fake. I don't even want to go into detail. That it's not going to last for them. That's not real. But you really have what is shaping up to be a significantly competitive division with what can Tampa continue to do? Are they really this team? Can they continue to score at this rate with someone like Kucherov? Buffalo, after a slow first couple of games, is starting to figure it out. Detroit has been wildly up and down. The only team looks like I was confidently correct about was Montreal still being bad. But I don't know. I think this division has a lot more firepower than people really realize. I think the offenses, Toronto, Tampa Bay, even a team like Ottawa, has some good front end firepower. I just don't know that these teams have the defenses to really compete for the top of the league.
Do you think on the bottom side of things, like a Detroit that's 3-3, and obviously Patrick Kane sees something in them because he's stuck around?
Yep.
Are they maybe not off to a hot start, but sitting at 500? Are they maybe deceivingly low in the standings there?
Yeah, I mean, I picked them to make the playoffs in our preseason thing. It's going to matter how the goaltending lasts, because they still have a weird goaltending situation where they're kind of rotating 3 guys, and then they have extra guys like Akasa down in the minors. So they have to make some decisions there. But for that team, look, they're going to go in a lot of ways as Dylan Larkin goes.
Right.
They need their top line to be productive every single night. And don't get me wrong, I like Dylan Larkin. I think he's a really good player. He is not the Nathan McKinnon that you have full faith in to carry a team to where they need to go. So they need the best out of their best players. And when they get that, they win. When they don't get that, they lose.
Yeah, and then by the way, they're at 3-3, scoring 15 and giving up 17.
Yeah, they're sneaking by in some ways.
Barely. Yeah.
And look, Alex Lyon has looked really good for them. If they stick with him and he can play well, I think that settles things down a lot. I still don't know what they're going to decide to do. Cam Talbot is a fine tandem guy, but a team that's going to rely pretty heavily on Dylan Larkin and whatever goaltending they end up getting.
E, are you surprised at Boston at 3-3-1?
Yes and no. You know what I mean? I do believe that there's a little bit of a distraction with Sway at the start of the year, right? Swayman. I think it was weighing heavily on everyone, not just fans, but players and even coaches, as we know. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, is my star goaltender going to be there? If he's not there, what does that mean? Oh, we're more incapable to play Korpisalo. Well, last I checked, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not that smart. But nobody threw 60-something million at Korpisalo last year. So I'm just saying, he's not as good as Swayman. So there's a big difference. Obviously, Korpisalo went in. He went and started sideways. And then and everybody was like, oh, God, we need Sway. And then they put a little bit of pressure on Swayman. He's been okay in games. And then he's been, not so okay in other ones. I think that Jim Montgomery, Joe Sacco, Chris Kelly, they have an unbelievable coaching staff there. Somebody in the chat was asking if Montgomery's lost anything. No, Montgomery's a player's coach. Trust me, he's this guy can talk, and that's one thing. He's got the pulse of his locker room. When you see things like you saw with Marchand a couple days ago, if you didn't see it, he's just kind of giving it to him. It's all good, and it's all part of being in the NHL. Like, at some point, Marchand knew he made a bad play, and then I think that coach just kind of let him know. And then go back to last year when he called out Pasternak, and then everybody went to see Pasternak, and what do you think your coach calling you out? He goes, well, you know what? If I was the coach, I'd be calling myself out too. You know what I mean? Because I'm not up to snuff right now. So I think those guys are going to be more than fine. They always find a way to get hot, to get streaky. A lot of good teams. You were saying earlier, like, you can't win a game. I say it all the time. I compare it to blackjack, and if you play blackjack, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's times where you can't lose hands. It's just amazing. You're on a run. And then there's times where you can't win a hand. And, and then some teams go through that, but when you feel it and when you have the resources to go, for example, Swayman or the Avalanche, it's Rantanen, McKinnon, McCarr, you're going to go on a run. I do believe the Boston Bruins are going to go on a run, and I do believe the Avalanche are going to go on a run too. But to compare. When you have good coaching, you have good leaders, you have guys that have really put things straight there over the years. Boston Bruins, you're no further than Chara to Bergeron, now to Marchand, and guys that have done it, that have won. And the coaching staff are all in one there. So I don't see any problems there. And when it comes down to the rest of the division, of that division, I always look at goal differential. That's my favorite thing, besides the analytics that AJ and Rudo give me all the time, because we all know I can't read. But when they lay it in front of my face, they know which ones I like, that I feel are pertinent to the game, because I also like to deal with the fit and the feel, which is different in numbers. But every time you look at numbers, and if I go back to the oldest numbers, it's the goal differential. If you're gonna, right now, the anomaly a little bit is it's Florida, and they all know. I'm sure Maurice, fresh of his extension, is not going to talk about. He's going to talk with his team about being a -5 right now in goal differential. It's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. It's more like the Rangers right now at +19. It's pretty amazing, and that's the standard right now. Probably when you're talking about the Eastern Conference, is to see how can we keep up with the New York Rangers. They're getting the Shesterkin goaltending, and teams are probably looking at that and say, "Oh wow, how do we go about getting our goal differential to where it should be and not be in the cellar?"
All right, well, E, we got to talk about getting to some games together, and if it's not a game that you have tickets for or the hookup like E does, that's where our friends at Game Time come in. I have used this app now. I have tried it out. I love it, and I love it because of the simplicity and because of just how visual and intuitive it is. And they also have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets and really not understanding what's going on. It makes it easy. They've got all-in pricing. You can view your seat in this really cool panoramic view so that when you're looking, you can actually see, okay, well, for example, if I was in Utah, I don't want this seat. I'm literally behind a pole and I can't see the net. Game Time does a really nice job of giving you that panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what you're getting. Also, they give you the lowest price guarantee. If not, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And they also have Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account, redeem code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today, because what time is it? Well, it's Game Time. It's a cool app, and it really is helpful for sporting events, concerts, whatever you like. I'm super stoked on it, and it makes it a lot easier than a lot of the other apps that are out there.
Especially if you're going into that Utah building, if you're getting tickets there.
Well, that's what I just said.
A lot of tough seats.
Hey,
a lot
cool
of tough seats in
I'm
that
behind
building.
a pole.
A lot of tough seats.
Can't see anything.
Look, we're talking about the start of the season here. We're talking about first impressions.
Yeah.
Some teams have shown up a little bit limp.
Yeah, you got to get in harder.
Yeah, got to get, don't go into the pool. Don't experience any shrinkage to start. It's not just about first impressions, though, right? It's about lasting impressions. And that's where Blue Chew comes into play, all right? Blue Chew helps boost your confidence in the bedroom so you can stay hard and perform at your very best. Think Cale Makar, not, I don't know, who's a defenseman who's bad, Joel Edmondson or something. I don't know. I got Jack Johnson's stick is probably pretty stiff. Let's be real.
I don't know if I should be thinking about Cale Makar in this situation.
Look, does Blue Chew work? If you're asking that question, we want you to know Blue Chew is putting their money where their mouth is by giving you a month free, so you can try it yourself. They're an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost in a chewable form. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made here in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. So get with it. It's done all online. You don't have to do anything crazy. You can try Blue Chew today, and we've got a special deal for our listeners. You can get that Blue Chew free when you use our promo code ALLCITY at checkout. All you have to do is pay $5 shipping at BlueChew.com. Promo code ALLCITY to get your first month free. Once again, BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast.
We've had a good, hard, deep conversation about the Atlantic.
We have.
And now I think we pivot to a very firm, intense conversation on the Metropolitan Division, the Metro.
Very firm.
Listen, the Rangers are looking like a wheel again.
Yeah, I don't even have a lot to say. Artemi Panarin looks like a man possessed.
I mean, whoa.
If you had to pick a cup favorite today, it's probably the Rangers. I know that was Eric's pick at the start of the season.
Yeah.
They look for real.
Everything else down the middle is pretty much... I mean, there's not much differential. The Devils, obviously, the same amount of points. They have 11. New Jersey did not look great yesterday, obviously. There are a lot of goals in that game. But, yeah, the New York area teams looking solid. I mean, New York is at 2s across the board with 6. They're down in that 7th spot. Carolina, okay, you're above 500. They kind of are always my dark horse. And then maybe a little bit of a surprise by Washington at 4-1.
Yeah, Washington's the big surprise for me there. I did not expect them to start the season well. I don't think they're legit, but a start like that, you start get rolling a little bit. Ovi starts scoring some goals. Everything starts clicking for you, and that's how teams that are bubble teams find their way into the playoffs. The most interesting team to me right now is New Jersey, though. They are outscoring their problems right now, which they absolutely have the forward core to do. And that makes them scary. If they can get a little bit of goaltending, Markstrom hasn't been great so far this year, barely a .900 save percentage. They're a team that's been trying to turn the corner for the last couple of years. If they can get on track with their goaltending, I think they might be for real.
Yeah, and he's a guy. Marky's always a guy that's been streaky. I mean, you go back in his career, it's all mental, right? I mean, when he feels good about his game, then he goes out there and he's a big body, but he's an athletic body. Unlike some goalies that are just big, like maybe the big fella in Philly. You know what I mean? This guy is athletic. He's very technical. He's a very solid talent. But right now, you're right. It's hit and miss. And I think the Devils have a little bit of pressure. They do. They got a little bit of pressure. Right, everybody was picking them 2 years ago to do well, and they were doing well. And then last year, they're going to do even better. And then it just kind of faltered, right? Part of it because of what? We keep talking about it ad nausea. They had no goaltending. And then when you have a couple injuries like Hamilton and things like that, next thing you know, they couldn't overcome it. So what did they do this summer? They went after Jake Allen and Markstrom, and hasn't paid off, in those first 6-7 games, right? Because it's been okay. As far as the Rangers goes, yeah, I'm going back with them. I do believe they're the ones coming out of the East. I just have a gut feeling, but also the numbers are showing us right now that I'm not that smart, and a lot of people are smart when they're picking the Rangers. They're playing great hockey. I think that those guys are solid in the net. They're solid in the back end. And like you just said, Panarin is a man possessed. This guy produces at 5-on-5. And again, I'm not going to compare to Nate McKinnon because McKinnon's the beast last year at 5-on-5. But he's also, being a superstar in a market that loves superstars. And, I think the Rangers are going to be a tough out. And they certainly have shown that the start of the season for sure.
I want to move on. I knew we were going to blast through this, and we're just cranking through and almost out of time. The Rangers look good. I think, again, they're a cup favorite. But, again, let's just caveat it with all saying that we're 8 games into a season here. A lot of things can happen, change, injuries, etc. But let's switch the focus back to the Avs for a minute here. The goaltending situation is not going away.
Yeah, it's just not.
It's just evolving into something else in a good way. We talked about the pressure that was going to come in with a new goaltender thrown into the mix. Does Capo get a start soon? Does Eustace start tomorrow? I think he should.
He should, yeah.
And if that's the case, and we do throw Capo in the Ottawa or the Blackhawks game, and he performs well, now all of a sudden you're talking about Georgiev being the third goaltender.
Yeah, that's the big question. Are the Avs actually willing to commit to making Georgiev the number 3?
Well, I'll tell you. Well, I'll say that Eustace starting 2 in a row and most likely starting tomorrow is very telling.
It is, and that's the start of the conversation. And they didn't go get Capo Kakinen to not play him at all.
I don't know why you. I respect Jared Bednar infinitely, and I will say that unbiased. I told you I was going to be honest with you all this year. And I will wrap this up and let you guys talk because we're running out of time. I will be honest about everything, top to bottom, even players who I like a lot, even coaching staff. If I don't think it's right, I'll say it. I'm used to that. That's what I've been doing for the last few years for NHL Network, so I don't have any trouble pulling punches. I have a deep respect for Jared Bednar and the control and the voice that I think he has in that room. I would see zero reason why you don't start Eustace tomorrow. Like, none.
Same. At a certain point, Georgiev just has not earned it. And for many of us, I think we're past that point. I don't know. If you're trying to ice your best lineup, I don't know how you can start Georgiev, especially in a game against Utah. It's a division matchup. These are kind of important points directly, a 4-point game. Yeah, it's early in the season. These things still add up over the course of a year. You need to put the best lineup out there to win. And personally, I just can't justify that being Georgiev.
Yeah, I'm not judging. Going back to last year or the year before, I'm not judging the way they've handled the goaltending. I think they've had no choice. I think they handled it masterfully with what they had. You know what I'm saying? Meaning like, oh, he's our guy. We can talk about the start of the season last year where Eustace and then Prospect. I'm talking about Georgiev. You know what I mean? Forget about Eustace. You and me agree. We didn't like the start last year when they went and got Prospetov. You know what I mean? I thought that was like, oh, what is that? You know what I mean? So I'm not going to shy away from that. I'm talking about the way they handle Georgiev. I mean, okay, he's our guy. And, you know, all of a sudden he's so up and down. Things don't change. I think now they're in a situation this season where they know that Eustace can play because he did it last year. So now don't have that argument anymore. Well, he's never played. He's only played 2 games, 3 games. Now we know he's got a small sample, but he's played games, and he's played well in games. And now you're going to get a 28-year-old Kakinen. He's not a rookie. And you've been, again, in a seesaw, start if you're Georgiev. I agree. At some point, and I've been pounding on it the last 10 days, you win, you're in. You win, you're in. You win, you're in. For me, that's the way it should be, because I don't know who's the best goalie of all of them. If they all of a sudden, I can't tell you that Ananen's not as good as Georgiev because I don't know. He's never really been given the ball. He gets the crappy starts, right? We talk about that all the time. He gets the stuff, or he gets pulled in like this year where all of a sudden the team's already down and you're not, and I know it's part of your job, but you're just jumping in. That's not fair. And then Kakinen, he's an unknown to all of us, and I do believe I like him. I'm not going to shy away from that. I do believe that if he's on a team like the Avalanche, this is a guy that can thrive and then maybe save his career. So we'll see. But I do love the fact that you win, you're in. It's competition. It brings the best out of people. And I think you're seeing that on D a little bit. And if you can see that on the net, more power to it, because they need goaltending, obviously, all the way through. But more importantly, those first 20 games, because of all the reasons that we know.
The Avs set themselves up. They set themselves up for the potential to have some hard decisions here, and it's coming to hard decision time pretty soon.
And listen, okay, that's his business. It is the NHL, and there are hard decisions to be made.
Absolutely.
And I think you're gonna have to. I think you're going to have to do it. And I think the one other thing, and I know we're almost out of time here, but the one other thing that I saw was the confidence in the guys evolve in that game yesterday, from a tricky start that Eustace held up for, and then evolve into the team relaxing and falling into more offense because they knew they could.
Yep. And look, I think, yes, absolutely, Annunen playing well is part of that confidence, but you also saw at the end of the game, who was confident, or who Jared Bednar was confident in? His veterans. I think the writing is on the wall a little bit for guys like Cal Ritchie and Matt Steinberg. Played under 7 minutes the other day in a game where there was very little special teams time. It's not over yet, but you can see the separation of a Steinberg and a Ritchie compared to a Kovalenko and an Ivan who were getting minutes in that game. So some decisions are coming on that side of it too.
And we'll talk about that more tomorrow for sure. We'll have some more time in pregame as well as during the watch along and moving on to discuss. And we'll also have a little bit bigger sample size and see what minutes look like for Steiny and Ritchie also tomorrow after the Utah game.
Absolutely. We'll have our boy Petey coming on for pregame too.
Cool.
So shout out Petey. He does a ton of stuff for All-City Hockey at this point, but a Utah guy. So we'll get their angle with guys like Dylan Genther and things like that too.
Looking forward to having him on. Looking forward for you all joining us. What a great participation we had yesterday. Tons of fun. Thank you for all the comments and the likes. Make sure you are subscribing to our channel. We're trying to hit 100K and we're getting closer, so please do that. We got a great deal right now and a limited time offer for diehards, so check that out if you aren't already. Get in on that. Make sure you are liking and having notifications on everything we do. And that's going to do it for Big E, Tiff, myself, and Rudo. We say so long, but we'll see you tomorrow when the Colorado Avalanche take on the Utah Hockey Club. I almost said Seattle Kraken. We already beat those guys. We're done. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Do something nice for somebody else out there today, okay? Go make somebody's life better.
We all silly like the mayor.